Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the natal chart of Orson Bean. Now, some of you may have heard about Orson Bean. He was tragically killed in a car accident. He wasn't in a car, but he got hit by two cars. It was one of them had hit him and I believe knocked him down, and then another one came and hit him, and that was the one that was tragic. The second one, which was fatal, and sadly he did pass away because of this. He was an actor, a producer, comedian, writer. He was very versatile. Obviously, jack of all trades. In his chart, he has Gemini midheaven with the North Node in Gemini conjuncted, so it's not surprising that he obviously built a public image and reputation for being very diversified, very versatile. Um, and the North Node being conjuncted, it shows that there was perhaps a destiny in future that was associated with that very strongly. Now, in his chart, he has the Sun in Cancer, Moon in Libra, and he also had a Virgo ascendant. Now, the way I think this may have manifested with him having a Cancer Sun, Cancer Sun, the basic wants can be tied in with emotional security, and then Moon in Libra, perhaps through acting, something with the arts, and then you have it being flavored with that Virgo ascendant energy, which a lot of this may have been done with a lot of meticulous energy, a lot of attention to detail, but through a lot of hard work and industry. By trying to do things nearly flawlessly, because Virgo energy, of course, is very precise, and I'm sure he was very reliable in what he did, and as far as his acting goes, and probably known for his punctuality as well, I would say. And the thing about it is, and also in his chart, he has, no surprise, preponderance of planets on the top half of the chart. And when people have most of their planets on the top half of the chart, they often are more inclined toward a public life as opposed to a private one. You have, he had, like, I think it was either 9 or 8 planets on the top half of his chart, and he probably a lot more extroverted or gregarious as opposed to being introverted and introspective, and probably a lot more objective than being subjective. And really, this is a person, lived a pretty good age. I think 91 years old he lived to, and he has his sun in Cancer is at 29 degrees, which of course 29 degrees is a critical degree, but it's also been known to be the millionaire's degree, and he did have. Now, I'm not sure if he made $1 million. He may have at least made close to it because he was involved in the television industry for some time. So it wouldn't surprise me if he actually was a millionaire. Not everybody that has like the sun, moon, or ascendant at 29 degrees Cancer is going to be a millionaire, obviously. It might just be very fortuitous as far as money goes for some people when they actually need it. I have a prominent family member that has her ascendant at 29 degrees Cancer, and she's had all kinds of, financial hardships and gone through a lot of tribulation and adversity, and has not really been, I don't know if she was ever in a real affluent state. And of course, a lot of the energy, as far as whether that may come to pass, whether somebody at that 29th degree placement, whether they become prosperous or affluent or have you, a lot of that could be, predicated on aspects in the chart. That prominent family member also has her Venus square her Saturn. I'm sure there's other indicators in the chart for financial difficulties. But going back to Orson Bean's natal chart, he also had Venus conjunct that sun in Cancer, so there's no surprise that he lived a life where I'm sure he was very prosperous and thrived. Now, he was also too, looking at his his chart and stuff. He has also his Mercury is a very close sextile aspect to his Jupiter, so that could obviously be very fortuitous and beneficial for communication and writing, and since you have Taurus and Cancer energy involved, Jupiter being in Taurus, Mercury being in Cancer, I'm sure there was a lot of persistent, dedicated, and devoted energy to it. I see Mercury in Cancer can be a position of somebody that can write with a lot of strong dedication, devotion, tenacity, and with unequivocal and unconditional love. So those are some things as far as his natal chart, what I noticed, and also the chart, the ruler of his 10th house of career, no surprise, falls in his 11th house. 11th house I see as a house that could be connected with television, because the 11th house in astrology corresponds with the zodiac sign Aquarius. So it's not, really shocking he had a career that was in the television industry. Now, sadly, he also had, his Mercury is conjunct as Pluto, so it's not surprising he died as a result of something associated with cars, local transportation. Um, Another thing too is when I look at some other indicators in his chart, and as far as death goes, he also had Uranus and Aries in the 8th house. So, looking at that, a lot of times, people have Uranus in that 8th house. The death may be very unanticipated and unexpected, very unpredictable way. And having Aries on the cusp of the 8th house can sometimes indicate a volatile death or death through an accident. Uranus and Aries in the 8th could be an unusual, unpredicted, very unanticipated death that can come through some kind of an accident. So, uh, in having the ruler of the 8th house in the 9th house, it's not shocking that this was something that was globally communicated, because, of course, the 9th house is associated with global communications. Now, another thing, too, as far as his chart goes, and any indicators as far as his death, he also had Scorpio at 0 degrees on the third house cusp. And third house, of course, is associated with local transportation, short journeys, and he has Scorpio on it. Scorpio is the sign, of course, that is associated with death. So it's another indicator that the death occurred through some kind of a short journey through local transportation. And cars, I would say, could be connected with that, because cars are strongly involved with local transportation and short journeys. Now, another thing is too, sadly, as far as some transits go, with him, I'm looking at, his, he had a transit in his chart that had, it was transit Mercury, making an opposition to his ascendant. Now, Mercury can be connected with, local transportation. It's not just about communication. And Mercury energy can be a little bit, Mercury in Pisces can be very nebulous and unclear. So again, it's not to be redundant, but it's not shocking that this was something that was opposing, his physical body, that maybe was not able to be seen. It really became an open adversary at the time. And also, too, sadly, he had transit Pluto in long opposition to his natal sun. So, when you look at that, a lot of times I think that could suggest that death is something that you may not be really have a hard time seeing coming, because the sun rules the right eye in males. It can be connected with our vision, and of course the moon, the left eye in males. So this could be, that maybe that played a role in not being able to actually see the death coming readily, sadly, in this case. And also, having the sun at the 29th critical degree. I think in some cases when you have, the sun, at 29 degrees, or even the ascendant at 29 degrees, it can be some critical issues that are associated with the physical body. He may have had some, I don't know if he had any health, major health issues, but considering the age, he likely did. And 29 degrees Cancer sun can indicate something with the breast, the chest area, or the stomach at the time. And I've talked about the North Node before, as far as the destiny and the future of somebody. And sadly, at this time, he had transit North Node conjunct his natal Mercury. And when you have transit North Node by your Mercury, a lot of times when you're talking about North Node in astrology and transit, it can be about issues that one may have to address or confront. And sadly, this was something that happened that was connected with the vehicle, something connected with local transportation, sadly. And again, going to his natal Mercury, making a conjunction to his Pluto, that is an indicator that a death can occur through some short journey. It can be through a car, through local transportation. So really, there's really not much more really want to say as far as this goes. This is, again, this is a very tragic ending that he had, and it's terrible that this actually, that something like this had to take place. I'm sure he was a really great man and accomplished a lot during his time, on Earth, and hopefully, prayerfully, he is in a better and happier place right now. So, anyway, and again, I want to go back to his chart having a Virgo ascendant. The chart ruler falls in the 11th house, so I'm sure a lot of that, again, that Virgo rising energy, a lot of that went into his goals, his aspirations, probably attaining them very systematically, methodically. Probably was very good at organization as well, in doing things very strongly connected with the proper order that they needed to be done. And he struck me. I just saw one photo of him on Wikipedia, but he looked like he had a very kind of meticulous, very neat type appearance, and that's not really bewildering when one has a Virgo ascendant. So anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Also, having another thing too, I believe that transit Mars at the time was in transit Mars, I believe, was in his fourth house at the time. So that could indicate that the fourth house is about the latter or end part of one's life. And again, it's not shocking that something happened to him at that end of life that was going to be connected with an accident. Of course, Sagittarius sadly can be very reckless and foolhardy energy. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.